We're going to call this meeting to order, and everyone have their handouts. So if you brought your handout with you, make sure that you've got the updated pages 1 and 2, and pages 8, 9, and 10. They're at the back, and it says 1 and 2 are, and 8, 9, and 10 are. Okay, because those pages did change. If you're just coming in tonight and getting a package, there are complete packets with the changes in it. They say with revised. Ready? I guess so. I think I've been here long enough. I think everybody here knows. My name is Mark Polo. I'm the town manager, and this is a two-part meeting this evening. Both of these are required by state law. The first is a budget hearing where we're going to talk about the operating budget of the town. This is the budget that will be proposed at town meeting in March. There's also going to be a second part, which is a bond hearing for two bond articles that are $100,000 or more, and we'll talk about each one of those in more detail in just a little while. Okay, so I got it. So there are new pages. Everybody has the updated pages. Basically, we got some last-minute information. It allowed us to make a pretty significant change in our solid waste expenses on page 1, and I'll talk about those in just a minute. And it resulted in a change of the estimated amount to be raised by taxes from what you might have seen if you picked up a packet at the post office or somewhere else around town. But we'll get to that in just a second. For those of you who haven't been to this briefing before, there are 3 things that I'd like to define for us. The operating budget, when I say that, I mean the expenditures for our department operations. It does not include any of the bonded articles, special warrant articles, or capital reserve articles. It's just the day-to-day operations of the town. Revenues, when we talk about those, we mean the fees and other income that we bring into the town other than taxes. It does include water and sewer charges. And then an appropriation is an amount of money which town meeting authorizes to be spent during the fiscal year. When we go to town meeting, second Tuesday of March, which this year is March 10th, you all are going to vote and appropriate money. The town uses that money that you appropriate to run the town from the 1st of January to the 31st of December. We can't spend more than the total amount that you appropriate. That's the law. Okay, so that's why an appropriation is very important for us. So if you go to page 2 of the packet, and it should be 2R, you will see an estimated amount of taxes to be raised. Does everybody see that? Right here, estimated amount of taxes to be raised. I like to give you the bottom line up front. And this year, the proposed budget comparing 2020 to 2019 is an increase of $98,126. That is 30 cents on the tax rate. That equates to $75 increase for a $250,000 property, $150 for a $500,000 property, and $225 for a $750,000 property. This would be reflected on your second half bill in October and November.
Mark?
So, yes.
What was the increase from the prior year? Just for comparison.
It actually it was a slight decrease, and when we adjusted revenues, it ended up being exactly the same tax rate when we got all of the pieces of the tax rate from the county and the school and everybody together. The tax rate in 2019 was exactly the same as it was in 2018. So how does that break down? The operating budget, the town operating budget, which does include debt service payments, is up $280,748. And I will talk about individual increases line by line in a little while. We are proposing those two bonded warrant articles, a water system improvements project and a general engineering services contract that are both going to impact our new bond projects. The total of those two projects is the $1,150,000 this year, and that compares to vehicles and other things that we purchased last year at $1,300,000. So we're down the $150,000. All of the other warrant articles are considered special warrant articles. They're not included in the operating budget. The total for those this year is $375,100, which is an increase of about $85,000 from last year. So our total appropriations is up of everything, bonded, special warrant articles, everything is up $195,748 from 2019. However, we have increased some of our revenue estimates, so we have offset $97,622 of that increase. That's what leads us to the taxes to be raised going up $98,000. Any questions on this?
Mark?
Yes.
What's our total debt now? What that proposal?
I'll show you a slide that shows all the debt for the next 25 years.
Right.
So major impacts that you're going to see if you go down page 1, debt service principal and interest, that's the different borrowing that we have done, the different bonds that we have taken out. So the principal payments on those, on that debt, and the interest payments are having the most significant increases in this budget, line to line. And that's coming primarily from the 2019 bonds that we approved. And that's for the trash truck, the trails project, and the ladder truck. And then in the operating expenses, we've had increases due to health insurance premiums. We've had a full year of a new position in the recreation department where we just had a partial year last year. And we've added a part-time transfer station attendant. We are going to be using fund balance, which each year, if there is any money remaining that we did not spend from the budget that was approved at town meeting, that surplus balance plus any revenues that we collected above what we estimated when we set the tax rate, those things combine and they go into what's called the undesignated fund balance. So this is money that we have basically as a checkbook balance year to year, that is not designated for any specific use. We use that to offset generally capital costs. This year, all capital costs, all right? And this year, we're proposing to use about $160,000 more than we did last year. And that is because during 2020, we should complete the sale of the ice arena. We have a verbal agreement to sell the arena. We will have a signed, hopefully a signed purchase and sale agreement next week. The selectmen will be looking at that. And definitely by town meeting, we will have that signed purchase and sale. When we do that, yes?
Just a quick question. Does it take an approval of the town meeting to actually sell an asset like that?
In 2011, the town meeting approved a lease agreement that included a sales clause in it. The selectmen are following that approved sale clause, and so there will be no town meeting vote necessary because town meeting's already voted on.
But we are going to have an informational.
Yeah, we'll have informational
Everyone will
meetings, but-
input, and you'll meet the people who we signed this agreement with in 2011, and you'll be able to be heard as far as what you expect of them going forward.
So the proceeds from that sale will go to the fund balance, and we're using part of that money to pay for these capital projects this year. So our estimated fund balance at the end of 2020, which is on the, I'll show you on the next slide, is projected to remain at the 14.1% of our operating budget, which is roughly where it is right now. So here's how it pans out. The end of, or during 2019, out of a $2,899,000 budget, of $2,899,000 in taxes raised, we had put roughly $140,000 towards that. So that was money that did not have to go on to the tax rate. This year, we're proposing $2,994,000 to be raised by taxes. We're putting $310,000 in fund balance towards that. So that's money, again, that does not have to go into your tax rate. And if you go to page 2, looks like this, in your packet, you will see each of the individual projects or vehicles or whatever we are paying for. These are all capital items. They are all part of our capital improvements plan, which goes through the planning board. Replacement of vehicles, improvements to facilities. There's sewer lines, water line improvements in here. We have replacement of equipment at the public safety department. And I'll go through the detailed list of them here, but all of those things make up the $310,000 here. So there are 14 items on that list. In the Department of Public Works, there's $111,000 of that 310, and that is for these 4 purposes. Okay? We have 2 leases that we have going right now, so we're doing the 2nd and 3rd year of those leases, and we're proposing a new plow truck lease for our 2nd plow truck. And there are guardrails around town that need to be replaced, so we're proposing $12,000 for that. In the water and wastewater departments is $95,000. We have sludge drying beds. That is an area up above Town Hall by our lagoons, where we spread sludge during the summer and dry it out. Once it is dry, it's picked up and disposed of, either landfilled or reused for ground cover. Collection and distribution system repairs, that's just the sewer pipes that are physically in the ground, manholes. On the water side, we have distribution pipes, valves, and things like that that we're proposing $20,000 towards repairing. The aeration system improvements. I don't know if you've ever been up above Town Hall where the lagoons are, but there are big pipes that go across the lagoons and they blow air to circulate the sewer water that's in there, and it helps us as part of our treatment process to process the water. So we're putting money aside to make improvements to that system, the air blower systems. And then we have an emergency repair account, which we're down to about $6,000 in each, the water and the sewer side. And those are used for leaks and other problems, manhole problems and things like that we have throughout the year. And that money, this $35,000, will be split evenly between the water and the wastewater departments. And then in the recreation department, we have the second year of our bus lease for our new rec bus. Well, our newest, it's not new. In public safety, we have two pieces of equipment that are critical for EMS care on the ambulance. One of them is the ambulance life pack ED, and the other one is a thermal imaging device, which, if you have specific questions, Dave can address. But we use the thermal imager a lot for fires, to find the source of fires if it's inside the walls or something where it's not a visible fire occurring. And we can use it for other uses as well. Yes?
Can I just ask a question about the AED? Is that something that's being replaced on the ambulance now?
Yes.
Okay. And it's
Yes.
obviously not the AED that sits in
No,
there.
no, this is a 12, well, Dave, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, it's a Life Pack 15. We currently have a Life Pack 12. It's about 15 years old. It's at the end of service. Where they're no longer making parts, and this year will be the last year they will be servicing the machine. So.
And this is one of your...
It's a defibrillator. It's a 12-lead. It's a cardiac monitor. It's our cardiac monitor. It is our main piece of equipment that we use in the ambulance for just about any call that we go on. Does blood pressures, O2 sats, and it's also our main defibrillator.
Yeah, Jeff and Chris both said it's like the key piece of equipment on the ambulance. So.
Mark, is that the same case for the thermal imaging devices?
The thermal imager, the one we have, is very old, and it's older technology. The one that we're proposing to get will give us a lot more capability to... That thermal imagers, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they have come a long way in the last 5 to 10 years. So.
Yeah, this one's, I think it's 12 or 13 years old now, and it's very big, very bulky, very old technology, and the company's no longer in business. So the ones that they have now are much smaller, much more advanced. We take these into fires, allows us to see when through the smoke when we can't see, and like Mark said, if we've had occasions where there are fires in the walls and we need to locate them quickly, we can do that. We can also use it for search and rescues also.
Any other questions? On the grants, there are two grants that we are looking at, both designed to increase the, first of all, inventory all of our water and our sewer systems. This is very important because we have a lot of facilities spread out around town that have been there since the 1970s or 80s. We need to go through and do a thorough inventory of everything that we have in the ground. What size is it? What exactly where is it? Things like shut-off valves and for the water system, looking at manholes to tell what type of shape they're in if they've been in the ground for a long time. These two grants will help us do that. And the grants come from the State Department of Environmental Services in both cases. And we can use the cooperation of town staff as a match for the water facilities grant, this one right here for $40,000. The state will give us $20,000, and then we're responsible as the town for the other 20. We can do that either through cash or through our staff working. So I don't know that it's going to take the entire $20,000 in cash, but we have to appropriate that money before the state will do it.
Would you explain to the crowd what we did this year as far as the leaks we determined and how that will help us to continue that work?
Right, and the wastewater facilities, we actually had a company come in and we started doing some of this facilities review. They put a little machine down into the sewer.
Why we did it? We were getting...
Well, we're getting a lot of infiltration into our system, so we're getting more water into the sewer plant than we think we are producing throughout the town, like on the order of several 100,000 gallons
Which costs
a
more to
week.
process. So.
And then we have to process that water. So we had a company come in and they actually put a little machine down, went through some selected sewer pipes, and we found several leaks, okay? We were able to seal those leaks off, and it reduced, what percentage, Jim?
Oh, I knew it was big. I don't have it right off the top of my head, but I bet we got 60% of them.
Yeah, so we're with this water facilities assessment will help us continue to identify those sorts of things.
That saved us
And
60% in chemicals, wear and tear, and time of our water staff. So these grants are great for us to really try to tighten things up and save money. So I think it's a great investment.
And because of the importance of the sewers, the state actually gives us back 100% of that grant. We have no match. So that's all state funding. So these two articles represent $65,000 in grant monies. Yes?
Is this the first time we've done this, or is this something we do periodically?
It's well, we have been trying to do the inspection of the lines and stuff, but this is the first time that these grants, since I've been here, that these grants have been available. And then there is one project that is included in the operating budget. It's a continuation of a project that we did last year and funded it the same way. We have giant carbon treatment tanks in the wastewater treatment plant, and we are replacing the carbon in those. So we drain the tank out, take out all the old carbon, and put in new material. We have to do this about every 10 years in our plant. So this is the second year of a 3-year planned project. And we're proposing to add $30,000 to capital reserves for our road repair account. And that is used basically for emergency repairs. So any questions on these special warrant articles? Again, they're on page 2 and they're listed out here.
I have a
Yes.
question on that, something from last year.
Yeah.
What's the status of the beach, project?
Well, that comes into the engineering, we're going to ask the town to pay for it. In the big scope of things, what we've had is, because we're so small in what we do, we have trouble getting contractors to come in and bid successfully and reasonably on a lot of our projects. So one of the things that's going to be coming up is some money to get an engineering firm in here to start doing master bids for all of these projects to come in. We are working on the bathhouse project as part of the core group, and there are a bunch of moving parts to that. So there's been progress, but we're also waiting to hear what's happening with the chapel people to see whether to locate and the rest of the stuff. So it's moving ahead, but slowly.
So it certainly won't, nothing will be done,
It's not in the budget for this year.
and the money in last year's budget goes away then?
No, 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 it was, we are actually gonna use the money that we appropriated last year. I've got a slide, we're gonna do some trail work, okay? If you remember, when we talked about it last year, we were going to have, in the 2020 budget, we were gonna have the bathhouse, the pavilion, and some more trail work. That has been pushed 1 year to 2021, because we wanna do the engineering. Because when we started talking about it in detail, we didn't really have a good plan that we could put out to bid. So we want to do some more engineering work in order to have a better plan to put out to bid.
Was that the trail work to put lights, if I remember?
Yeah, there was lights, there was signage, there were trail improvements. So we will do that this coming spring along the village trail. I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes. But around the pond and the building of the pavilion, that's been put off at least 1 year. Did I get that right? Okay, so any other questions on these projects? So let's move into each of the individual department lines, and I'll highlight some of the changes that we're seeing. So we're looking primarily at page 1 of your handout, or 1R. Please make sure you're looking at 1R. Well, so we have two things that are personnel is an area where we have some increases, and I'll highlight those, and then we have other individual budget lines. And interrupt me whenever you'd like, and I'll address any questions. So each year we look at the Boston Area Consumer Price Index, and from November to November, and the selectmen look at that and then make a decision whether or not we have a cost of living adjustment for town employees. The town uses an open pay plan, so there is a minimum amount and a maximum amount that we pay for each job classification for people who work for the town. As you can imagine, our job descriptions are all over the board, because we have people working in the rec department, and we have people working in the sewer and water departments. We have public safety officers, EMTs, police officers. So we have a big range of different types of jobs here in the town. But we have developed a pay plan that lays those all out, and employees get paid somewhere between a minimum and a maximum pay amount for that work. So we take that pay plan, and the selectmen decide whether or not we adjust that each year. This year, based on a CPI of 1.7%, November to November, the selectmen settled on 1.5% across the board. So that was applied to all full-time and regular part-time employees. Is there anything you guys want to add to that? Okay. In addition to that, our health insurance premiums increased by 3.9%. We are on a July 1 to June 30 health insurance plan for the premiums, so that increase will go into effect July 1st, 2019. The other thing that impacts health insurance is the plan that employees qualify for. So if an employee gets married, they are now eligible for a two-person plan instead of a single-person plan. If they have a child, they're now eligible for a family plan instead of a two-person plan. Those are actually bigger increases than our premium change, especially in this budget. And I'll highlight those in the different departments as we come to them.
You had also mentioned that we did change the plan that we offered.
That's right. And so this 3.9% actually started at 8.7, something.
I think it was 6.9.
Or 6.9%. We changed the prescription plan that we use or offer to employees, and that saved us about half of the increase. And then we had the new position in the recreation department, as I mentioned before. In the 2019 budget, that position had 7 months of funding, so we picked up the additional 5 months, and I'll show you that line when we get to it. So individual departments, administration, we're looking at $10,910 increase over last year. That's from the COLA and health insurance premiums. In the insurances, line item 4196, these are all of the property, liability, workers' compensation, and unemployment insurances of the town. We put it out to bid this year, and we did select a new carrier. That actually saved us, even though there is a substantial increase of $13,568. That was less than if we had stayed with our prior carrier. We saved about $6,000 by doing that.
Is that primarily one, workers' comp or property or one type of?
No, it was across all three. Yeah.
So Mark,
Yes.
from the school standpoint, we are on the old carrier that you were on.
Yeah.
Should we never didn't even know about this or think about this? Is this something that we should be doing as well?
Well, you can put it out to different carriers. There are carriers out there that are looking for municipal business. And we've actually been trying to do this for about 3 years. There was just a whole bunch of things that held us up, like our dam. But now that the dam's fixed, the new carrier would take us. So,
does it make things easier if the school and the town are on the same carrier?
yeah, I think it is easier, but we've gone to a private insurer instead of a risk pool. So our prior provider was the municipal risk pool in the state of New Hampshire. We went to a private insurance company. You just have to make sure that they'll provide the coverages that you need. And we actually got an insurance consultant to help us with the process and to review all of the coverages for us to make sure that we have comparable coverage that Primex was providing.
Okay. Won't be this year, but we'll think about it.
No, yeah, I think it would be a good idea to look, for sure.
Just out of curiosity, why does the school and the town opt to do this separately?
They're two separate legal entities, and the insurances they're different. I mean, from providing teacher liability coverage compared to the municipal operations, it's just a different legal entity. I mean, it was nice when we both had Primex because, especially for this building, you've got the same carrier covering the recreation department and the school. So we're going to have to develop a memorandum of understanding because I don't want the insurance companies always fighting each other about who's supposed to cover what. But we'll work on it. It was just too much of a savings to pass up this year.
It just seems odd that the biggest part of our budget is the school budget, but yet the town and the school aren't communicating about, okay, we're going out and hiring an insurance advisor. It makes me thought. I get it, they're two different legal.
Yeah.
But it seems like the communication would be, why doesn't Mike know that you guys are hiring an insurance guy? Piggyback on it.
Okay, well, we can provide it to them for sure. We'll do that. Any other questions on the insurances? So the next line item is under 4199. All of this is called other general government, and you'll see that these are other entities or other operations. They're really outside of the town staff services that we provide, but they are entities that provide services to people here in town and that come in with funding requests to the selectmen each year, and they are laid out here. The pond maintenance one has been put in here because there's really not it could be in buildings and grounds, but we wanted to keep it separate just because of the nature of what we have to do there for DES, etc. But all these other things, such as the Ray Center, the Shoes Bus, Shakespeare in the Valley, AIA, and the Historical Society are all services that are provided by others. And I've highlighted one, which is the Ray Cultural Center, because they've made a request this year that's outside of the normal $25,000 that we provide. And I'm going to have Leah talk to you about that request and why that's being made. But I'd also like to point out that the town used to run the Curious George Cottage as part of the Recreation Department. Several years ago, the nonprofit was formed, and a separate board took over the operation. The town is still responsible for the maintenance of the building, but all of the programming and everything that goes on is under the nonprofit. When we made that change, we decided that there would be a $25,000 amount that the town would help the nonprofit with, because we cut $50,000 or $60,000 from the town budget at the time that we separated them. So we took a portion of that, and we've continued to provide that as a support to the 501c3. That $25,000 has not changed since the 501c3 started. So Leah and the board have a request for this year.
Can everybody hear me okay if I'm speaking?
Stand up, Leah.
Okay. So I think that I do know many of you, but for those who don't, I'm Leah Elliott. I'm the executive director at the Ray Cultural Center, and this is my third year with the organization. So there is a lot of history there that I haven't been a part of, and that the town, can provide some of that information. In the last 3 years, we've really been working on being part of the community and filling an area of of the town's needs that doesn't happen in recreation, that doesn't happen in town. We are really working to continue to promote the arts, and in the valley, that means things like actual art programs, music programs, literacy, and education pieces, and it's really great. We've been doing some fun and interesting things over there. So the cottage, just for those of you who maybe don't have this information, we get about 4,000 people through the cottage annually. That's kind of been a number that's stayed about the same, and the demographic of that changes periodically depending on what our We also have a mobile outreach program that serves, in the last 2 years, we have increased to 2,500 children in the general region, which is what we're really excited to be doing. So this year we have looked at the $25,000 that the community has given to the Ray Center as something that really allows us to be there in the cottage. It provides it's a quarter of our budget, essentially. So it's a big portion, and it's very helpful. It makes us able to keep the lights on, for sure. So looking this year, we have requested from the town that you consider a $10,000 increase for two general reasons. One is inflationary costs. As Mark mentioned, it's been $25,000 since inception, and that's been a number of years. And as you know, if you're looking at percentages of increase between the cost of living, between cost of just general operations, that's a pretty reasonable increase. And that $10,000, if approved, will also support our constructing or building on an outdoor classroom. As I mentioned on Monday evening, for those of you who may have been here, we are expanding our summer nature program for Linux, the preschool age children, 3 to 5 or so, and we will have a 6-week program. If we are able to have a large event area tent in the back and improve some of the footing, then we can really have those kids outside the entire time. We only have used the cottage as a drop-off place and to use the restroom, obviously, but otherwise we keep the kiddos out on the Curious George Nature Trail and in the community gardens. So that kind of an outdoor classroom that's dedicated for that for the kids can also be used for our music events. I'm not sure many of you are aware, but we've been building a partnership with the New Hampshire Music Festival, and we have 3 events with them already on the schedule for 2020 again. And that's all. We're asking for some additional funds. Yes, Larry?
Let me just say a word for full disclosure. I'm on the board of the Ray Center. The key word is cultural, and I think that for most people who are not thoroughly familiar with it, the Ray Center produces a cultural stream which adds to the magnificent forests that we have and ski areas and so on. And there are many people who come here who are surprised by and pleased by the opportunity to participate in the children's programs and the reading groups, music events, the Friday speaker series has been a success. It really adds another dimension to Arnold Valley, and really, I have to say, Lee has been doing a superb job.
I know, I did.
Yes, Bill.
Yeah, just a quick question. The other night at the school board here, I believe you committed to providing daycare for this during the summertime period for all the kids that are in the.
Well, that's the program she just spoke about.
Right.
With the,
So the question is, do you need this $10,000 to provide that program, or if the money's not forthcoming, can you still provide that service?
Yeah, I can answer that question because it's the Ray Center, not the town doing it. So our intention is absolutely to have the program. What we can do with that $10,000 is the twofold. It's the general inflationary cost piece, and then it's making the experience that much better for the children and for the town as far as that goes, having that outdoor area there. But Bill, we'll be running the program.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
any other questions for Leah? Thank you. The way you're going to see this, if you look at line 4199, you'll see that under Ray Center support in the 2020 proposed, it's $35,000. We're going to include the regular $25,000 item in the town operating budget, and there will be a separate warrant article for $10,000 for the additional, so that there can be a discussion and a vote separate. All right, moving on to public safety, just wanted to highlight the police department, line 4210. It's up 22,534. Yes.
Mark, going back to 4199.
Yeah.
I noticed that there was a $7,500 increase in the historical society.
Oh.
Could you just comment on that?
Yes. First of all, there was no, I apologize because we put the Historical Society on the line from last year. Last year, that $2,500 was used for another purpose, and now I can't remember what it is.
It was for the other projects, which at that time was the cemetery.
Right, for the cemetery. We appropriated $2,500 for the cemetery last year. The $10,000 request for the Historical Society. Would you like to?
No, we did not get $2,500 last
No,
year.
it's $10,000 this year.
Yes, and we're requesting $10,000 because we have plans to do some work in preserving the documents and the things that we have right now, cataloging them, assessing them. We've got to hire people to do that because we do not have the expertise. That, and we're going to get a rental space in Town Square where we can bring some of our things up, and also to store some of the things that many of you have offered to give us, but we had no place to put them. So we're trying to get a rental space temporarily. We're working on plans for building a museum someplace down the road, and just for getting our documents together, getting them more accessible to the public, and also continuing with some of the events that we've had in the past, and we plan on a lot more events in the future. And we will be doing some sort of a presentation at the town meeting too. Explain a little bit more. Any questions? Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to public safety, the police department, 22,534, primarily two areas, retirement system cost increases and part-time wages. We utilize the part-time personnel that we have in the department to fill in shifts for training, vacation, sick time, etc. So we have made the part-time budget work as much as we could, and looking at it this year and looking at expected training, and as we get longer-term employees increase vacation time, this was a year when we needed to increase the number of hours that we had in allowance for the part-time officers. So that is a major piece of the increase that you're seeing in the police department. Dave, you want to highlight anything on that? Any questions on that?
No, we're covering about 29 weeks of vacation, 52 right now. Those part-timers are a big portion of being able to cover that without having to incur overtime.
Public Works in the highway department. We had employees who, as I said before, either got married or had children, so they changed status for their health care coverage, and the resultant premium cost increases were substantial. And that is almost all of the $20,500 increase in that one. Solid waste collection. We have a transfer station attendant now. The transfer station that we're talking about is up above Town Hall, up by the lagoons, and that's where the construction debris and tires and old refrigerators and all of that type of stuff are dropped off. That was managed or watched after by the folks at the wastewater treatment plant before. And in that system, we would open up the gate, and it was basically an honor system. And when somebody came in with a load, a pickup truck load or whatever, or a refrigerator, they would stop at the treatment plant, and if somebody was there, they would fill out a slip, and we would bill the person for the material. We found that there were a lot of times when the guys at the treatment plant were taking care of the plant, or they were somewhere around town, and the vehicles were just driving up and stuff was being dropped off. So we instituted, given our situation with solid waste here and in the state of New Hampshire in general, the selectmen decided that we were gonna, when that gate was open, we were gonna have an attendant, a part-timer, up there watching what came in, filling out the slips correctly, and we have almost paid the entire cost of that person just by supervising that drop-off of the material and having somebody up there.
You
So-
say almost? What's almost?
It's like
We
within
went from-
$1,000, within, yeah,
We went from a total town collection up there of 2,000 a year to, what are we at now, 17?
Well, if you look on page 9, I can show you that. Actually, it's on page 9R. I think. Right? Page 10, 10R. You see that we collected 26.9, and actually we collected more than the cost of that person. 2019 collected line 340410, solid waste system charges. We collected $26,900 and we budgeted $17,700. Okay. Now we have the cost of the person and the disposal cost of the material. So we figured that we're within about $1,000 of all of those costs. Right. And we were collecting like $800, $900 a year.
Are you finding more people scamming the system by dumping stuff on weekends around the dumpsters?
We have cameras now.
We have cameras down there now, so we've actually
We can back up
approached people.
Yeah.
And yes, we had a couple of people that went up and the gate was locked and they dropped their material. And we called them up and said, hey, we saw you on the camera drop the material and there's no money here. Can you come in and pay for that material? And they did. So it's working.
Mark, I
Yes,
I
John.
talked to, at some point, I think someone was selecting about the possibility of doing some sort of brush pickup, either once or twice a year, come around and one day, or open up the dump Saturday, not the dump, but
Yeah, the transfer area.
drop brush
where
on the
brush pile.
weekend or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was wondering,
We-
we never talked about anything like that. Those
We
are-
could do a springtime cleanup weekend.
Yeah, if you just said Thursday, the 15th of March, or May, we're coming through and anything sitting out on the road will pick up. It would be really nice for those of us.
Yep.
You could tie it together with the town cleanup day,
Yes, we can.
and it would be easy for us to do.
Yeah.
Guys are out then anyway.
Yeah, the guys are out picking stuff up for that half day. So we will advertise that. That's a good idea. Any other questions? In wastewater, Greg Campbell, our longtime employee at the wastewater treatment plant retired on December 31st. We were very fortunate to find someone who has the equivalent licensing to replace Greg. We also had a second position, the assistant plant operator, because it is a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week operation. That young man left that we had working there during 2019, and we were able to find someone to replace him that actually had more advanced license. So we have 2 operators there at our treatment plant, and they are definitely well licensed for what we're paying them, for sure. They both are coming to us from Massachusetts, where they were operating huge municipal plants like the Worcester sewer treatment plant. They're grade 5 licensed guys. They have a lot of experience. Between the 2 of them, I think around 40 years of experience. So, although we hated to see Greg leave, this is about the best scenario for us in replacing him that we can get.
We spent a year trying to find a replacement for Greg, and he stayed on an extra year for us.
Yeah, we
And
really
just
appreciate it.
happened to these people, so. If we don't have a licensed operator, we would have to contract the service out, which would probably be double to triple the cost.
And we have put that out. We have put a request for proposals out to contracted services, and it was higher than the personnel cost of having our own operator. Another area at the wastewater treatment plant that's affecting their operational costs is our heating plant there. We are working with a HVAC company right now, trying to figure out a good way to heat the plant. We currently have 35-year-old wall-mounted heaters. We do have to keep that area somewhat warm. We don't have to make it 60 degrees or anything like that, but we do have to try to keep it comfortable enough so people can work in the environment. So we are going to work on that during 2020 and see what we can do about lowering those heating costs.
Hey, Mark?
Yes.
Can I go back to solid waste disposal? Do you have an update on any recycling materials? I'm sure the answer is no, but
I do have a slide on that later.
You do?
Do you want to wait while we have that conversation? Because I knew it was going to come up tonight. So I do. And it is for us too. In the water department, health insurance status change again. And we have a contract with an engineering firm that provides us with an annual review of our new water well out in the national forest. So every year we go out and they have monitoring wells out there, and they measure the aquifer and do water quality tests, etc., on the water coming out of well 4. We've been doing this now for 6 years. It costs about $25,000 a year. When we submitted our test results, which they have not changed since we put the well into use, we submitted a letter to Department of Environmental Services to alleviate this testing requirement. We're not sure if we can get it done, so we did have to budget the money for 2020, but we're hopeful that they will say we no longer have to do this test. But it is a significant part of that departmental budget when you look at the total numbers. Any questions on water or wastewater?
Thank you all.
Yeah, no. Oh, technology has not been my friend today. Recreation Department, lines 4520 and 4525. Our Recreation Department has two parts to it. We have our recreation services, and we have our parks department. I'm sorry, I got my pages all mixed up here, so give me just a second. I'll find page one. So for 4520, we're looking at a decrease of about $20,196. And that is because we moved one of our full-time staff from that department to 4525. Okay? That is also the position that we only partially funded last year. So that is why when you look at 4525, you see an increase of $47,000. That increase is almost entirely personnel costs. But it's offset by the $20,000 in the rec department. We are in our second full year in 2020. We're in our second full year of our efforts to improve our summer programming and try to get additional folks coming into the valley in the summertime and just increase participation in the rec department.
This is the hiking initiative.
The hiking initiative, the Redliner 125 patch, which you may have seen on social media, and those sorts of things. Yes, Ray?
Is the park service the new department?
We broke out some of the responsibilities from recreation and put them into parks, just so we can track them and the new items, the new programs that we're trying to form.
So what's the difference between the two categories?
Well, in the parks, we have our waterfront in there, and also all of our hiking, initiatives and also with that personnel, that person, so we're sort of just separating so we can kind of track.
So it's like the outdoor stuff is in the parks department, everything outdoors, including all the maintenance of our
seasonal maintenance
facilities and all of that. The recreation department are our regular programming during the days on vacation weeks and our summer camp programs. So if it happens outdoors, it's under parks. If it happens in this building primarily, then
we also broke it out with facility rentals. So for example, facility rentals that happen here in this building are under recreation, and facility rentals that happen out in our fields and in our beaches happen in the parks department.
and you'll see the same breakout in the revenues when you.
So how do you determine whether the new effort is successful?
Well, right now we're still continuing with sort of our plan from last year, and we're trying to track to see if we're getting higher participation. But it will take another year or so of tracking that to really get an idea.
Even though we've broken them out, we still have all the historical data of participation in our different events. And we have the same history of use for like the boats or whatever. So we're tracking it in a different department.
Could you maybe explain to people what they're offering and the kind of participation we've seen last summer and our first summer, and especially because it's a year-round program, you've initiated some winter hikes that are being used. Talk about the people that are using them and how many people you're seeing and where they're coming from.
Sure. I think what we counted was our overall participation too, just for this hiking, this new initiative, was about 500 people for 2019, which we didn't start any of our new programs until June. We onboarded our new person in mid-May, so now Mark's talking about our first full year being this year. We have been offering all sorts of hiking programs that happen in the summer, and also an AMC hike. We do snowshoeing twice a week, free for taxpayers on Tuesdays, and on Saturday we also have one. So we're really just trying to implement more and more. There's skills workshops, fly casting,
fly tying. We're really trying to increase all the offerings that we can.
And is it true that you've had some groups book
Yep.
Waterville to come specifically
We
take
have had some
advantage of the hikes?
custom trips. A lot of it is guided hikes, so people will call and they'll be interested in a custom guided trip. We've had a couple of those types of groups. We're hoping to get more of those types of groups. We're working on another patch right now. We were really successful with the red line patch, and that I think is going to take more and more traction as we go on. We're looking to do kind of an easier one that might be more inclusive. So we're just sort of trying to build. We're working on a guidebook.
And we're out there advertising.
Advertising.
Magazine articles.
Yeah, we're in the backpacker, which was nice.
Yeah, and I just wanna elaborate on that for a minute, because by adding this additional staff member, Brooke has been able to concentrate more on things like our marketing. The fact that we did get time with New Hampshire Public Television this past year. We had the article in Backpacker magazine, which was huge. They're reaching a lot of the people that we're looking to bring here to the Valley in the summer. And we are getting ready to publish the new trail guide. We're finishing up that project from 2019. So by the summer, we will have a new trail guide for the entire valley.
Does that replace the WVAIA one? Or?
No, it's complementary to it. In fact, the AIA is working with Brooke in the development of that.
Yeah, Dan is on the committee right
Dan's
now.
on the
for
committee.
guidebook.
Right in that. So that staff time has allowed Brooke to spend more time on efforts like that. And whether it's our social media or whatever it is, we've got a bigger footprint out there for the rec department, I think, than we ever.
Do any of these programs generate revenue?
Yes.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. It's when we were starting it off last year, we were sort of using really low, costs to these programs, so we could sort of increase visibility and get people to do it. And now we've increased it a little. We haven't seen too much of a drop off, but they will increase more this year.
And go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I went back and looked at what we were spending in 2014, roughly 5-6 years ago, and compared it to what we're spending today. And what I concluded was that back then, if you took a look at how much we were subsidizing parks and recreation then, it was somewhere around 145,000 came out of taxes. It's now doubled. We're now up to 290,000. And my only comment would be, I implore you to make sure that it doesn't get any bigger. We can't afford it. Our money.
If Bill, if you look at Bill Spence, if you look at page 10R, you'll see that we, even with the person starting literally a few weeks before we launched our summer efforts this year, between the summit and other programming, we exceeded budget on both of those lines, and I just see those lines going up. It wasn't much, we met budget, but I do see those things increasing throughout the year. And we ended up $10,000 or $9,000 over our estimated revenues for the Parks Department. And some of that was for waterfront, but the rest of it, we at least met what we had projected to do. And that was with very little prep time that he has now going into this coming summer. Hopefully we will report a better.
It might be your way of dealing with the issues that the other bill talked about.
Yeah, no, actually, it's going to be part of it. I don't know, we're always going to subsidize every department, the water department, sewer, recreation, every one of these departments get subsidized that bring revenue in. It's just it's part of the nature of the services that we provide. Because we do provide no-cost programming to residents and property owners. So, and that's purposeful because we know you're paying for it through taxes.
Help me understand, there you go, Larson, you can do it. On 10 hour, we're looking at the revenues that the rec department brings in.
Right.
104 grand. And we're spending 300 grand to,
I think you've got to add parks and recreation together.
Yeah, you gotta add the two together.
You got to add the figure we're spending $490,000
where are you seeing that?
in the budget.
parks and recreation.
Okay, you guys.
Take 10R,
So, numbers you talked about 4 or 5 years ago, Bill Larson.
Yeah.
Was that was the spending, were the revenues then?
Yeah, right.
we were at
Well,
about,
the revenues have gone from about 125,000 4 or 5 years ago to we're around 150,000 now. Whatever the number is.
Okay.
You know. Yeah.
Spending that,
But the subsidy has grown substantially.
Now these are unaudited numbers, the audited numbers at town meeting, so we can continue the discussion.
And I may have made some errors.
No, that's okay.
Yeah,
But you're right. We're up over to 200,000, as you said, and we're projecting, but we're also being very conservative in the revenues that we are estimating right now. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to increase them. But last year, 2019, it was 225,000.
I think we were at one point, we were at 180, and when you were chairman of the board of selectmen, we came up and we said, we've got to bring it down to 150. And we brought in something like 150 for a couple of years.
Well, we actually got it, we were around 120.
Right. And then when you came in, you were incentivized to bring it down.
Right, yep.
And we did, but the cost of this new initiative, we'll know in a year or so if it's worth it or not.
We actually
The
learned
comment is you gotta keep looking at the whole.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
you gotta keep saying, am I getting value out of this?
We're getting people coming up here who stay in the hotels, being exposed to Waterville Valley. You know, it's getting around, it's the shot we agreed to give a shot at, so.
Yeah.
But I think the point is, let them pay it, right?
Yeah.
Revenue's been flat, 100 grand, 104 grand. And revenues.
Yeah.
I love it, hey.
Yeah. Oh, no, the revenues are coming to the whole valley. You're seeing people take hotel rooms, you're seeing people come in for
They
meals.
can stay at the hotel and pay you more for the trail.
Oh, I get that, but that's Brooks
Oh,
Valley way to think about it.
This is to equate that we're running the same programs today we were running several years ago. This is mixing apples and oranges when we equate these costs. Historic costs of several years ago. You're doing much more.
We're doing,
Yeah. Tim, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I understand the substantive change that we're asking for here is we're asking for another half of an employee.
yes,
That's the change.
5 months, yes.
5 months. What is that employee doing?
That employee is the person responsible for the Parks Division. He's doing all the outdoor programming.
And the waterfront.
He's leading hikes and the waterfront and maintenance of the properties and the summit summer program.
So was that individual half-time?
No, he's full-time,
Okay, so
year-round.
we're adding a half of a person, correct?
A half of a full-time person.
A half of a full-time
It was
person.
only in the budget last
We
year.
only approved
Some of it,
From May forward.
so last year, Tim,
Oh,
last
we're
year,
not adding,
we're not adding, no,
this person that we approved last year.
that's correct.
Got it. That's where I was confused.
Okay. Any other questions? And then debt service. The debt service increase that you see on page 1 is an increase this year of $85,500 in principal costs and $32,150 in interest costs. We had 3 bonds that totaled $1,300,000 in 2019. We were able to secure all of those bonds. The one for the ladder truck was a 30-year note that we got a 1.42% interest rate on. I'm sorry, 1.54% interest rate on. The trash truck we took for slightly less time at 15 years, and we were able to secure that at 2.5%. And then we just sold the bond for the Trails project, and that came in at 1.42% on a 20-year note.
So what's your total debt?
Our total debt, let's move forward here. So here's a graph that shows you 3 things. First, our total debt here. And this is from 2020 to 2035. This is the new debt each year on the blue line, and the red line is our debt service payments. Our goal in this plan and working with the planning board is to keep this line as flat as we can. Okay, with new bonds coming on as old bonds are paid off.
So wait a minute, we're at just over.
Right here,
is that 4 million?
just over 4 million. This
And
is
we're gonna go up.
We're going to go up 5.65 is our
Keeping the
total.
spending flat?
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
that's new spending, okay.
And the red line does stay flat because old bonds will be retired
Yeah, I got it.
as we add. And the interest rates are also coming in.
So the state gives you guidelines, right? You got this?
Yes.
down?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where are we in the state guidelines?
We're in good shape on it.
We are, the recommended is anywhere from 8 to 16% of fund balance that we keep. And we are at 14% on the total debt. We are about 80, we have about 80% available. When we peak, right here, we still have about 80% of our debt that we can issue by
recommended.
law.
All right.
Yep. And so we're in the.
Just, geez, I thought I flew a number, but certainly lost me tonight. Help me with the $1 million increase this year?
The
The
$1 million
use of that money.
Yeah.
The fire truck last year was on a lease last year. The note started this year.
That's correct.
Okay, so we went from a lease to a buy.
Right.
And did I see earlier tonight that we're getting 4 of the vehicles we're going to lease? Like the plow truck?
Those are already, we do them every year. Those are second year and third year. And when the plow truck is a new lease.
Okay, we're not bonding those.
Right.
That's
No,
an operating.
Exactly.
No,
We lease them with $1 out at the end of the 3 years.
And we're trying to balance what we pay year to year with the bonds.
No, I'm just trying to figure the assets.
Yep.
We're taking 10 and 15-year bonds, but are we getting 10 and 15-year assets?
Yeah, we are. That's why we took the fire engine for 30 because we figured the people who are going, it has a lifespan of 30 years. So the people who are using it for 30 years should get it. Trash truck is 20, and the other vehicle is what?
Well, the trash truck's 15 because it's a heavily
15,
used vehicle.
The
and so
lives exceed
the
the
lives
bonding
exceed
period.
the
Yes.
bonding
Okay.
period. Or at least match the bonding period.
Okay.
And so that 5.8 up there, that includes the new bonds that we will be voting on as well?
Yes. It includes actually, oops, sorry, hit the wrong button. It includes the new debt that we're proposing, 1 million here, and more in the out years, okay, that are in the capital program. So it includes all of that.
Can we talk about the capital program now before we leave the subject?
Sure. We can we can go right back, hold on just a second, let me go back here, because I want it in the minutes that we're doing something, okay? So that actually, I'll come back to these. So the bond hearing, let's open the bond hearing so she can put the time in the minutes, because this is a legal requirement that we do this. So we're gonna have a bond hearing on 2 warrant articles. Both of these are gonna be voted on by paper ballot, and both of them take 2/3 of the voters voting to approve it, to pass. You got the CIP?
Good. Yeah, just quickly, but just so we're on the same page, what are the 2 items?
We're gonna, hold on. Here they are. So we are proposing a $1 million project to connect water wells number 2 and number 3 to our new treatment building out on West Branch Road. And we're proposing $150,000 for general engineering services. We put out a request for qualifications to bring an engineer in and have him work on projects across the entire town. So roads, facilities, parking lots, everything that the town does, so that we can develop plans that can then be put out to bid. We are having a problem when we go to put a project out to bid. We do not have engineered plans that allow bidders to provide us with bids. We've been getting complaints from contractors, or they just walk away and they won't bid on it because we don't have a complete set of plans. And if you approve a warrant article for a road project or something like that, and that's the first time that we have money to get the engineering done. And so we can't provide a good product to the contractors to have them bid on, and the bids are not coming in within our budgets. And so we can't get the projects done.
One of the other advantages of doing this is by having this engineering firm that we would retain to do, and we're not going to spend this 150, we just need to know it's there if we need it. We can put out projects that are a lot bigger than we want to do at one time and get a contractor to come in, or a few contractors to bid on it. Our problem has been we're so remote and our projects are so small that we have a very limited scope of people that want to come in here and bid on the work. So instead of bidding out something at $200,000 or $400,000 this year, if we put something that's going to be $4 million over 4 or 5 years, we might attract more people with more ideas and be able to actually get it done at a much better rate. So that's another impetus to get this done and do it this way.
Question, well 3, is it up and running? And it isn't.
So what we wanted, we've already been here an hour and a half, and I know everyone's getting tired. So what we have done is we're going to have the engineer come back next Wednesday at 6 o'clock. And I didn't ask, is this room available next Wednesday?
Next Wednesday?
We're gonna have the meeting in here at 6 o'clock. The engineer is going to give you a complete update on, because it is $1 million, it's a huge project that we've been planning for a year, so.
Let me throw in the other part of it. What we also have found out is that pipe that runs next to the bridge coming across, bringing the water from the treatment plants and from the well sides up to our towers is not in very good shape. So that's why it's kind of imperative that we look at this as a major project to tie it all together and get it all done at one time. Because if we're doing this piecemeal with, 300 here, 400 there, and all of a sudden the pipe breaks.
Yeah, so all of our
big issue.
All of our wells are on the opposite side of the river from all the people. We have one pipe that goes across by the bridge, and we're worried about it. It's deteriorating a lot faster than
It's
You can look down at the water and
See the
see
casing.
the rebar.
We had it inspected a couple of years ago, and the amount of deterioration that has happened in the last couple of years is it's giving us cause for a real alarm.
So we want to take you through, because we have been working on this for a year, we've looked at 10, 15 different options, ways to, number one, bring well 3 back online, because we can't put it back online right now, and fix this new, pipe in the river.
Well, number 3 was the one that was contaminated with E. coli?
That's correct.
All right. And it's still contaminated?
No, we have solved the contamination problem, but the state will not let us connect it back into our system the way it was before because of the bacteria issues that we've had. So we must, if we're gonna use that well again, it's going to have to be connected to our new treatment building. And that's the only way that they will allow us to put it back online. And we have been fighting.
It's kind of like dealing with the damn people. It's their ball, they're that, they're game.
Yeah, I hear you, but even so, somehow something's wrong here. I mean, we fixed the well and they still won't let us use it.
That's correct.
Is this the well that had a pipe going over to the pump house that got struck by lightning?
Yes.
So even if we wanted to get that going, the
that's
pump
correct.
house is dead?
Even if we fixed that pump house the way that it was, they would not let us use it that way because it does not provide, in their estimate, sufficient treatment.
But on the good news side, the new pump house we built on well 4 will give us what they need. So we don't have to really adapt that or make any changes to that. And what we're also figuring at the same time,
No, that's not true.
we have well number 2, which is right across the parking lot from there. We're going to tie that in as well to get it all set up to a central point.
I'll show you the letter. So this conversation has been going on with the state DES for several years, as you know, because you were on the board when we started. We did improvements at well 3. We have taken multiple tests, about 5 tests.
And you
of
solved
it,
the
and
E. coli problem?
we have gotten E. coli out of it.
Okay.
We asked to reconnect the well the way that it was and fix well house 1 that got struck by lightning. And they said no. They said you must connect it to the new pump house and provide that level of treatment before you can use it again, because you have had multiple bacteria hits in the past 20 years, which we have. We've had 2. So they will not allow us to treat it that way. And we'd love to go in and rebuild well house 1 again, put it back the way it was, and use the well. We need that water. Okay, we need that backup system. But
Yeah,
they won't let
that's
us.
worth mentioning as well, Mark, that right now with only 2 wells
We don't.
running, we're not in
We're
compliance.
not in
with the state
compliance with our permit.
requirements.
We need 3 wells to provide us, because if one of those wells breaks, you have to be able to provide for maximum use with the other 2 wells. And that doesn't, we can't do that right now because we only have 2 online. So if one of those goes down, we're violating our permit.
Also, we are going to be looking for grants and programs to do this, so hopefully this isn't all coming out of our.
And so we have
It's not like we're saying, let's get $1 million and do it, let's find the
Right.
best way to do it. We just want to know we've got the money and the approval to do it.
We have a grant application in on this $1 million project, and we will know in April whether or not we're awarded that grant.
But you said that you've got someone coming in next Wednesday.
To really explain it.
To explain
And
the whole
just
thing,
goes
show you
there.
the pictures, and the road repaving project is not going to
We're not going
happen
to put
this
out a
year.
bond for that. We've worked on it, we came up with a number much higher, so we are going to get more bids and put that out and get that together.
Future years.
So it will only be these, it will only be these 2 on the warrant.
Does that mean road repair will not take place?
No, this was an extension of, remember when we came and talked about putting the sign in and doing the road widening over that section? Well, what we thought we had come up with was a plan and a bid to come in and do that work as well as going down Tecumseh Road all the way down Snowsbrook and go by Village and get all of this stuff done. And we looked at the bid, we only got the bid this afternoon, the final bid, to see that we're going to present. And we looked at it, and there were too many questions for us to put it out there because we didn't want to run into the same situation we did last time, where we had an engineering firm tell us we can do something, then put it out to bid, and everyone came in at double the price. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to take this basic plan we have, and try to get some bids on it. This is part of why we want that engineering firm to be here to help us with that. We don't want to go through it again.
This is not road repair.
No,
That's in the operating
All
budget.
makes perfect sense. Mark, can you put up the chart, the total depth?
Yep. Oops. Yes, I will. Eventually, sorry.
So this chart starts at, what year is that first?
2020.
That's 2020.
Today.
So if we go back a couple of years, since we bonded approximately $900,000 in 18, we bonded 1.3 million in 19. We're going to bond another at 150. So that says back in 17, we had about half as much bonded debt as you're going to have at the end of 20. And in that forecast, there's no money to rebuild the roads.
That's right.
So what you need to understand is the elephant in the room is the infrastructure of the roads in town is falling apart. This is going to be a very expensive project, no matter how you do it, no matter how you bid it. It's millions and millions and millions. So as we sit down every year and fund various projects, whether they be absolutely necessary or nice to have, we're looking at a big nut, not far off. Considerable increase in bonded debt. And as you saw, every time you bond $1 million, you add another $120,000 a year or so to the operating budget. And so it's just going to keep stepping up and up and up. We have to be cautious. That's all I'm saying. We have to be cautious by recognizing the elephant in the room is that cracked and falling apart road, and not just in bits and parts of the town. It's pretty much everything.
And Tom, that is exactly why we tried to get the road project in,
understand that, Mark.
we just didn't get the numbers in time.
I just get the impression that the town needs to understand this is a big problem, and it's going to get taken care of in a rational way. It's going to be expensive.
Yeah. See, Tom, also there's some things that we're going forward in the CIP. In 2022, there's $1 million for town hall, and there's some other large expenditures coming up in 2024 dredging corporate pond. These things can be put off, and they're not. I just want to share it with the room.
They can be pushed. Well, that's why you want to show what's in that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so everybody, just so you know, it is in your packet on pages, what they're talking about right now is in your packet on page 12 and 13. That is the capital program. And so you can look at
The price that's up there now will show the speculative value of all of this road repair.
that's correct. It does not. Well, yeah, except that's the number we were trying to get, and
From
we
the
just didn't
engineering
get
firm.
it.
Yeah, I appreciate you don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be small.
Oh no, we get that.
But it's also true that we've been hit with some pretty high expenses the last couple of years. Thanks to the state and the dam project, and now this water project.
Money on a town that was built in
Right.
1970. 50 years later, and deferred maintenance is
Catching up with us, yeah. As well as
And one of
new
the
things
worst,
coming
one
in.
of the worst roads in town is a road we've already rebuilt since I've been here. It's only been 12 years since we rebuilt it. we need to go back and, so the project, and it's actually part of the project that we were talking about trying to do, because we know we need to address that road. It just, the numbers weren't available in time to tell you that.
I absolutely agree. You need competent engineers to look at the road
Yeah.
and help you figure out what you really need to do to get it to last the next time.
Right.
Okay, so total clarity, if you can come and bring this up. This stuff on page 13 is a plan. It's $1 million on all of that.
That's right.
Okay. That's $6 million of projects, 5 or 6 years. The bonding of these projects is included in your chart.
It is.
Okay, so we substitute
Everything
5 million of roads.
That's right.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't get a hand on the road code. Is it a $10 million number?
Well, that's why we're paying the $150,000 to get an engineering firm.
That's what the engineer will.
Because
And
we
engineers will
realize,
tell us that
we realize it's the elephant in the room. And not only roads, but, you have an aging water system.
Distribution.
You have 7.5 miles.
I got the million there, yeah.
You have 7.5 miles of road in town. You got about 16 to 17 miles of water pipe.
And you got pipe that was laid over tree stumps, you got pipe that was laid over ledge. We're finding.
So this engineer will look at everything.
That's correct.
He can sense the pipes and the roads.
Yeah.
And we can get a better idea of these numbers. and
That's why we're working on, it's all
Okay.
there's a
Got it.
synergy here, Stan, where we're trying to get these grants to get our water mapped out, or all these things mapped out, so we know, and the engineer will know that, if we can't do that, because this is reliant on that, and so we have a real plan done by professionals. All right, we all set?
Yep. So we're gonna have the additional meeting, presentation. Any other questions on the capital side? Yes.
But it seems likely that the multi-million-dollar project at some point in our future.
Yeah.
To which there's discussion, but there is no reserve fund being built.
Well, also,
towards that in any way.
we're gonna apply for grants, all kinds of different ways of doing this. It doesn't have to all come out of us, and we don't have a reserve because we don't know what it is. We're just playing catch up and trying to keep the rate, we're trying to keep the rate reasonable based on what we've encountered. We weren't planning on a new garbage truck as quickly as we were. The fire engine, this $1 million on the water line, that wasn't in our plan. The dam, another $700,000.
So basically you fund everything with hindsight. All I'm asking you, is there a propriety in
That's
say
why
having
we're-
$100,000 a year in some major
Well, we do.
reserve account?
We have that, but that's why we're asking for the $150,000 for the engineers to tell us what it's gonna cost us over the next 5 to 7 years. So then we can go, we need to start putting 80 or 100,000 in this account, we don't know yet.
We do have reserve accounts for different projects.
But that's daily, you're exactly right with that. That's by what flows up, we'll fix out of that.
That's right. We have not done it that way in the past. So
That's
a
why
big
this
amount.
is in here, to try to get a good start on this.
So, any other questions on the budget, because we skipped ahead to the capital? Any other questions on the operating budget?
All right, then, I'll make the motion to close the bond hearing.
Close the bond.
Bond hearing at 7:42. Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and if there are no other questions, that concludes our, yes, Mike?
You were going to talk about recycling.
Oh, yes.
Almost got away with it.
Almost got away.
Well, I get asked every day. I need to know the answer.
There is none. It's a short answer.
So, on recycling and solid waste, we worked through 2019 with several different organizations who came in and looked at our setup. Northeast Resource Recovery Association is a statewide organization that helps municipalities with disposal of solid waste and recycling. Basically, when they came in, we do not have enough land to do things in a much different way than we're doing them now. We cleaned up the transfer station area. We got the attendant. They did recommend to us that we get a controlled access to our facility because every other town has that. So we did do that, but as far as getting a different recycling system in place where we're sorting glass from plastics and paper and baling them and selling that material and making revenue, we basically have no space to do that. You need space for the actual machinery, you need space to drop it off, and you need space to store it until you can sell it. And it has to be weatherproof, because especially with paper, it'll get contaminated and you'll throw it away. So they basically told us there isn't a whole lot you can do.
Was there anything they said you could do?
They did give us some information on glass, but so many towns have started trying to recycle glass that the market fell off and it did not make any economic sense to do it. Cans, aluminum cans, which we've done in the past, the market just right now does not exist where we can do it in any reasonable way. There is one thing that the state is trying to do. They had a committee looking, legislative committee looking at municipal solid waste and recycling. They have some initiatives that the state is trying to generate some funds to help towns with their recycling programs. And those are current bills that are going on right now. If those pass, we might have places we can go to see if we can get some help. But there's nothing. We looked at composting. We looked at paper recycling. It's just not doable with the way we're set up.
So single stream doesn't.
And single stream is actually, we looked at taking the single stream recyclables to Tilton, and because the contamination thresholds are dropping so much, they're at less than 1% right now. And when you get the recyclable load down there is when they inspect it. And if it's contaminated, they charge you higher tipping fees than if it's regular trash. It doesn't make any sense to go down.
This is not, we are not in a unique situation here.
No,
and I think the state and the legislature is realizing that, and they're starting to hear from people on what a concern it is. So really, state people know that you're concerned about this. I think the more that they know down in Concord, I think the more response we'll see. But if we stay quiet on it, they've swept it under the rug and tried to ignore it.
And you can complain to your legislators about this. 50% of all the trash that is being landfilled in the state of New Hampshire right now is coming from Massachusetts. 50%.
Really?
Yes.
And that's another elephant in the room.
That's
what
right.
I mentioned. Speaking of elephants.
So the Bethlehem landfill, where we currently take our trash, half of the trash that's being taken up there is from out of state. And they are trying to get extended. They're trying to get a new plot permitted to extend the life of the landfill. If they are not successful in doing that, that landfill will close in 2021. And then we will have to take our trash to either Berlin, to Vermont, or to Rochester.
Wherever we can get a
Wherever
contract.
we can get a contract. And that's going to be the other thing, because when Bethlehem closes, all the towns that are currently using it are going to be looking for contracts. They are trying to permit a landfill in Dalton, but that's getting a lot of pushback from the community. So we don't know if that's going to be successful, but that's going to be the closest one when Bethlehem closes.
One other thing a lot of folks don't think about, we only have one trash truck.
Right.
And with the level of contamination requirement that's involved here, we could not use our trash truck to transport recyclables anymore. because they would become contaminated in the course of going. So one of the things that we looked at is there somebody who's doing recycling who would come in and pick our stuff up? We don't make enough. We do not make enough recyclables for people to be interested in what we're doing here. So it's been a difficult problem, I think, to deal with. And as Mark says, I'm hoping that some of the things that come out of the state will begin to help with this. And so many communities are dealing with the same thing.
And it's starting to affect the larger communities, so that now hopefully there'll be a little more political pressure to get this done. But I think that it's ridiculous if we're fighting about permitting landfill expansions, that we're taking all of this out of state trash and not taking care of ourselves. So, yes.
There's a great NPR recently that was done. I believe it's Hollis.
Yeah.
It's going through this right now, so listen to that. But can you give us a little substance on the number? What's the tipping fee for recyclables?
Jim?
Recyclables?
It's higher
For
than
single
regular.
stream recyclables, what's the tipping fee?
There's,
It went up from,
it's about, last I checked, because we're not doing it, the last I checked, if we went to the closest place, Tilton, it was gonna be about $135 a ton.
And then if it was contaminated, it would have been
It's gonna go to the landfill. And we know that single stream recycling is contaminated. So you're gonna go and pay $135 a ton, and they're just gonna transport it to a landfill, number one. Number two, it costs about $65 a ton for us to transport it to Bethlehem. So it's half the cost.
that's why we stopped the recycling, because
And how many tons are we running a year?
We typically run almost 900 tons total per year. The best year that we ever had was 19.4% recycling.
And what was the tipping fee prior to all this?
It was in the 50s and it was in the 30s for recycling.
It was when we first started, it was in the 30s.
It was 50 for trash and like 33 when we started single stream recycling.
Correct.
What was it when we stopped?
When we stopped,
They went up
when
over
they
100.
when they went up,
2018.
They went up to 70 something, and then they said, and we're not even gonna take it.
It was in the fall of 2018.
in the fall of 2018, they told us that it was going to go up to. They told us in August that for the rest of the year, we were going to have to spend $75, $76 a ton for recyclables. And then on December 31st, they stopped taking single stream recyclables.
So the number that I'm looking for is that number prior to that.
Prior to that, that's what the 33 was.
34.
So it stayed about the same throughout the entire
For years.
Yeah,
because we had a contract.
Because we had a contract.
Okay, so 33, and you did 900 loads at that point, and we're doing 135 now.
No. 900 tons total.
Got it.
19% of that number was our best year.
19% of that number was the best.
Right.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
All right.
And truth be told, our trash fee hasn't changed. How long? Ever.
And the state's.
That's the $65 fee?
No.
Now the 15.
I'm talking about the 15 that residents pay per quarter. $5 a month for trash.
Great.
It's so bad that a few years ago, we took an initiative and hired a consultant to come in and write an RFP for us for solid waste and recycling. Someone to come in and give us a proposal to take it off our hands. And we figured out the worst for this investment, we'd at least have a roadmap. A couple of people tell us a few ideas of what they would do. We had one guy from Rumney said, "I've got a truck, I'll be up Tuesdays." No one did. No one even responded.
Casella didn't respond.
We're too
Waste
small.
Management didn't respond. They don't
Yeah.
want to do it.
And we're along.
As a municipality. As a municipality.
And the
As a
surrounding,
municipality, they don't want business?
They don't.
We're too
they-
small.
Too small and remote.
Said they did not want to do it.
and the surrounding
We offered them
communities-
to bid and they wouldn't.
The surrounding communities don't want us coming
Yeah.
to their
We-
transfer station either.
I'll talk to you later about it.
Okay.
It's interesting.
How much space would it take to set up a proper recycling?
We don't have it.
There's,
Anyway.
We don't have the land. That's
Yeah.
part of this.
That's
That's
part
my
of the
question,
problem.
how much land, we don't have it.
We don't have.
Okay.
We currently don't own enough land.
As far as the
here.
acreage.
Yeah, we just don't have any land.
And you don't want the recycling to be in the center of town. And that's really the.
We thought about trying to do a tipping floor.
Yeah.
And all that, but when stuff gets wet and freezes here, you know, we've really spent, we are not ignoring this because I think personally believe strongly in recycling as well. So it's just a tough one right now. But the state's gotta, our government's gotta help us out. All right, so where are we, Mark?
We are,
I think.
if you have any other questions.
Mike, did that answer?
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
That's what I have.
Any other questions, anybody? Well, thank you all for coming. We appreciate the feedback.
Don't forget, a week from today, you get to hear about.
A week from today,